So let's do this.
Yeah,
Nick.
so it would be great to hear about your association with Viking Samurai and what happened, all that.
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, I started my YouTube channel because I had nothing to do. I started it right when Corona started, and I couldn't teach. I couldn't do anything. You know, I couldn't teach. I couldn't work as a bouncer in bars anymore. There was literally nothing for me to do. So I decided to start a YouTube channel because I didn't really have time to do that before Corona. I always had the intention of starting a channel, but I never got a chance to start one. You know, didn't have the time. So
Yep.
I started making videos. I think for about a year, making a lot of videos, and then I realized, you know what? These videos are not really going the way they should. I got like 4,000 friends on Facebook, but you know, you realize quite quickly that they're not really your friends. You know, you ask them to subscribe, they don't even fucking subscribe. So I figured I need to get myself on like a bigger platform, you know, maybe do a video on street fighting or do a video on celebrities or something like this. This is how I found Viking Samurai. Also, because I look up Van Damme stuff sometimes, you know, I look up videos on Van Damme, and he just came up on my feed. It's not like I looked for him; he came up on my feed, and then I had the idea of maybe doing a collab with him, you know, because I saw the potential
That
in his
makes
channel.
sense.
But if you watch his channel, you will notice that the first video that really got a lot of views was that video I did with him, where we talk about who is Hollywood's real tough guy. You know, that video was my
Yeah,
idea actually. It was my idea, but it was my
yeah,
idea for us in order for us to both grow. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah. That makes sense. I mean,
yeah, and
that's a good topic with mainstream appeal.
exactly, yeah, exactly. So I actually set it up so that he would ask me this question. It's not like he came up with that question on his own, you know. And I had already the idea of throwing the question back at him right away, just to show also like just to show what, not to make him look bad, but more just to show what most people think, because Viking Samurai is like, he's sort of like what most people not most people, but what he his mentality is the mentality of a lot of American martial art movie fanboys. He thinks like a lot of them think. I would say, I would argue even worse than some of them, you know.
Yep.
So I mean, he's a real fanboy, man. I mean, I'll give you an example, right? He made this movie called The Last Kumite, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you
That's
know,
recent, isn't it? The trailer just came out recently, I think.
yeah, he's doing the Van Damme kick in it. For only
Yep.
for like a second, you
Yep.
see him doing it. But if you watch, I've seen this one thing where they're introducing people. It's like I screenshot it. I can send it to you. I'll even put it here for the audience to see. But it's funny how for every other person they have like their background of what movies they've done or what kind of martial arts level they're at. You know, Viking Samurai always calls himself lately a lifelong martial artist. But there it said all-round action fan and YouTuber. So his own people in his own movie are calling him a
Yeah.
fanboy. They're not recognizing him
Yeah.
as a lifelong martial artist or as a black belt or whatever the hell he is claiming to be. They know better, man. They're not blind. They're martial artists. Of course they know he's a beginner fanboy because that's what he is.
Well, it's
But
interesting when you look at his kicks. He has flexibility; they're high, but they don't seem to have any power. And I've not seen him throw a single kick that would be effective in hard sparring, much less combat or full contact tournament fighting. So I'm not really seeing any indications that he's the high level martial artist he would have us believe.
no, he definitely isn't. And if you see, there's a video of him, but you see, the thing with his channel, you have to go back to the beginning of his channel to understand more how messed up he is in his mind. You got to watch his first videos to like really see. There's one video that he loaded up when he first started his channel that's called Van Damme Inspired Training. I don't know if you've seen it, but in
I
that
haven't actually.
video,
I haven't seen that one.
okay, in that video you see his real levels because you his kicks look sort of okay now because he learned all that stuff from me. But before he watched my tutorials or before I made those how to kick like Van Damme tutorials, that was his level. If you guys see that video, I mean, he's kicking a heavy bag, and you can't make this up, bro. He throws like a front kick in the heavy bag, for example, right? And he's punching and kicking the bag at the wrong time. So instead of kicking the heavy bag when it's coming back at him, he's punching and kicking it right when it's going away from him. You know, thereby not really having any impact in the kick or in the punch. He's basically even kicking the bag with wrong timing. And if you've seen that video, you know he has a lot of mistakes in his techniques. His brother also does some kicks, and he actually does it better than him. And as far as the jumping spinning kick goes, he only throws like a jumping back kick then, which is more like a jumping side kick. And his technique is completely off. There you can already see, you know, his level. And it's interesting to me that he claims to be an expert and all that, because I have all the discussions with him. I have all the chats. I have a lot of screenshots. I screenshotted all that stuff. And he was really trying to find out what worked and what didn't work. We made a video where I get into a street fight. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's called Does Taekwondo Work in the Street or something like this, he titled it. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen that one yet?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, it was during... Okay, it was during Corona time. I got into an argument with some guy in the grocery store. He spat at me, so I got him outside. I spat at him, and then he punched me in the throat, and I wheel kicked him. And my buddy jumped in because it was two of them, and then, you know, we ended up basically really beating them up badly. But it's all on tape. And when we made that video,
I would remember something that dramatic.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, I basically put out a short first of just the images of me kicking that guy in the head. And, you know, he was very impressed by it, of course. And then he started telling me if we could make a video, you know, where we, or I told him that we could make a video about street fighting, you know, about Taekwondo street fighting. He's like, yeah, that's a really, really good idea, because that topic really interests me, you know, which martial arts could work in a fight. Now, if he's telling me this, what happened to that bullshit story that he's saying about that he's a black belt and that he got into one fight at a club and whatever, beat the guy up? It's like all of that stuff came up. He came up with all of that stuff way later when he got the idea to try to fight himself. But, you know, in the beginning, when we first started talking and all that, he had no intention of coming off as a lifelong martial artist or as a fighter or as a black belt or even wanting to fight people. Like in the beginning, it was all about trying to get me a fight. It wasn't about him. It was about trying to get me a fight, you know. And even with this movie stuff, the first time he was approached for a movie was because they wanted to put me in a movie, not him. And you know, he also had some people reach out to him quite early on that wanted autographs from me, subscribers from him that wanted autographs from me, you know. And it's like I never even got the contact of those people because he never really contacted us. I don't know what he told them, but these people also did not reach out to me, so I don't know what he told them. You know what I'm saying? But nobody was asking him for autographs. You know, nobody was asking him to fight or even talking about him fighting. You were saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Look, I get the impression he's a lifelong action martial arts movie fan, and maybe he has tried to learn through imitation. So he watches the movies and he does a bit of training, trying to imitate Van Damme and so on. He's probably done some lessons, but it looks to me like he would not have moved past, say, yellow or green belt, just based on the skill level that I've seen. And so are you saying when you first got to know him, his level was very basic and you taught him some stuff? I'm assuming remotely, so you made some videos for him and gave him some online tuition, and that way he improved over time. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. But he would also send me videos of himself, like in chats. You know, I have the videos and I have the chats. He'd, for example, send me a video of him throwing a roundhouse kick and then only spinning around afterwards with his knee up in the air without throwing a spin kick. I don't know if you know what I mean. Kind of like how Van Damme does it. Like, you know, you throw a roundhouse kick and you only spin with your knee.
So I know what you're saying. So that's quite a basic mistake.
Right.
You're describing.
Yeah. So he would send me videos and then he would ask me, am I doing it good? What should I fix up? Blah, blah, blah. So I'd give him advice. And sometimes I'd send him videos back explaining how he could do it better. And we're talking about basic things. We're talking about a roundhouse kick, for Christ's sake. I mean, you learn this stuff when you're a yellow belt. He's asking me how to do a roundhouse kick. You know what I'm saying? And it's not even that. Like, he was really trying to learn how to kick like Van Damme. He was not interested in learning how to kick like a black belt. He was not interested in learning how to kick like a high-level kicker. He was only interested in learning how to kick exactly like Van Damme. He wanted me to really explain to him how I do it, because he saw me doing the 360 Van Damme kick in my videos, and then he said that it was by far the best 360 Van Damme kick he'd seen on YouTube. And if I could teach him this, and he was begging me for it, you know, like really kept asking me every day, kept asking me advice every day. Also on street fighting, he would ask me advice. He would ask me, or he would give me names of YouTubers. What do you think of this guy? Does his stuff work? you know. And the first argument we had, I must say, on fighting was when he was already acting like he knew better. He was saying that we were talking about Krav Maga, you know, and I don't know if you know much about Krav Maga, but I always argue that stuff doesn't work.
I know something about Krav Maga, and he said he's done Krav Maga.
Right.
That's part of his backstory. So he said he's done that more recently, and he claims it's quite effective for him.
Right. But let me back up where I left off in the beginning so we don't get sidetracked. Yeah. But I was talking about that first video that got him a lot of views. The video where we talked about who is the biggest martial artist. Did you see that one yet, by the way?
Yeah, who's the real tough guy?
Yeah, right.
Who's the real tough guy? Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay, so you saw how I threw the question right back at him, and the first thing he said was Michael J. White.
Yeah.
And then I was arguing, you know, Michael J. White can't fight, bro, you know. And in the comments, a lot of people got angry because I said this. They said that...
the video where you said you could take him out with one kick? I do remember there was a video where you said if you fought Michael J. White...
Yeah, that was the follow-up video. That was the follow-up video called Michael J. White Officially Challenged.
Yep.
And you know what? Listen to this though. The original title of that video was Michael J. White Officially Challenged and Why This Fight Makes Sense. After a fallout, he changed the video to Michael J. White Challenged by the Most Delusional Man on the Planet.
Yep, I saw that.
It's like look who's talking, dude. I mean, he thinks I get angry with these titles and with these videos, bro. But like, I don't really care because at the end of the day, people who have any bit of an IQ like you do can really see through that a little.
Well, look, I think even your biggest critic would have to admit you've got more of a chance against Michael J. White than what he would against Bisping or Nam Pham or any of these professional or former professional fighters that he's challenging. So clearly he's become delusional. And it sounds like he was always that way, but it's kind of unveiled itself over time.
Actually, no. I mean, I know quite a bit about him now. After I've talked to him for a long time. I mean, like we used to talk on a regular basis almost every day. And based on what I know, what I've seen on his social media, he was not very popular, man. Like you have to go back to the beginning. Like if you go, cause he'd be calling me a nobody all the time in the comments. Oh, AJ's just a nobody. AJ's a nobody. It's like, dude. Okay, every city I've lived in, people know who I am. Every damn city I live in, people know who I am. And then for him, it's like he's never been popular ever, not even in high school, man. If you look at his Facebook, his first post on Facebook, he has 1 like or no likes on every photo he posts. And his nose is like twice the size. I think he had a nose job. And recently he's wearing green contacts. I have green eyes. You know, he has brown eyes. Now, recently he's wearing green contacts. I've seen him wear blue contacts before too. I don't know if you've seen this video where he's showing his black eye that he got hit in the eye. And he's showing his eyes and he's showing that they're green. Van Damme's eyes are green. Mine just happen to be green too. And I know he also, in his little fanboy mind, he envies that shit. Which is ridiculous, you know what I mean? I mean, if Van Damme had black eyes, he would be wanting to have black eyes, you know? It's like, it's a little ridiculous. But it's like, yeah, he, what was I getting at? I got sidetracked with the contacts. Oh yeah, if you go to the beginning, you will notice that he was never popular, man.
Him as being a phony.
What?
A phony.
Yeah.
He's a fake.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's not an authentic person, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you see his very first photo, it's actually in a nightclub. His very first photo on Facebook, he's in a nightclub with 2 girls. 1 girl on his left, 1 girl on his right. But you can tell that they're workers of the club. They're dancers. They're dressed very, very sexy, like dancer, like stage dancers, you know?
Yeah.
Crazy makeup, and you could just tell that they're both performers. So it's not like he's kicking it. They're chilling with him. The next picture after that one is him with some dude. There's more pictures with that guy. I don't know if it's his brother or his best homie or something. But the only picture you will see of him with women, besides those 2 girls, is the girlfriend that he's currently with now, which was years later. And I'm not sure. And you know, I think everybody should label themselves what they want to, but I doubt that his girlfriend is a biological female. I think she used to be a male. So I think she's transgender. And I might have to edit this part out. I might have to edit this part out for YouTube because, you know, YouTube BS, they don't really like you talking about transgenders.
It's too sensitive. But I did see your community post about that, and it's a pretty shocking picture. So, uh, yeah, I don't know what that person's status is. Yeah, it's quite. Yeah, I was shocked. I was actually shocked when I saw that community post by you with him next to that person.
Well, that's his lifelong partner for many years now, man. That's the only partner that I can see him that he's had on Facebook. There's no other pictures of him with any other female ever, not even when he was a teenager. And if you go back and see the pictures he's posted on Facebook of him doing martial arts, there's some pictures of him as a teenager doing the splits in his house. There is nothing of him in a uniform. There's nothing of him teaching anybody. There's no sparring. There's no tournaments. There's no pictures of him with his master. Absolutely nothing. Not a nix. Nothing.
So it sounds like what you're saying is he's never really been popular. Now he has a YouTube channel with over 100,000 subscribers. It's the first time he's been popular. Maybe that's screwing with his head a bit.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like yeah, and it's like, and he's making my taekwondo background his own. He's making my story his own. I have some screenshots and some things that I'll add in here as I'm talking, and I'll send them to you after we talk. But it's like he pretty much copied my background story. Now he claims that he was knocking out black belts as a green belt. Okay, I never said this. I never knocked out any black belts as a green belt. That's like sort of delusional, but at the same time it isn't. Let me tell you a short story. There was this guy named Gary Michaels. He had one MMA fight where he knocked the guy out immediately. He was the most talented martial artist in our dojo with like natural talent. That guy did knock out black belts when he was yellow belt. So even way before green belt, he knocked out black belts. But this guy never even got to black belt. He quit before this. He switched martial arts dojos because his dad didn't want him paying. He didn't agree with him paying or something. I don't know what kind of drama he had. But my point is this. I've only met one person that was a color belt that was able to knock out black belts. And his speed, his natural talent is beyond belief. And this guy was not the smartest guy in the world. Like he was, but with martial arts, he was just naturally talented. You know what I'm saying? I had to really work to get fast in Taekwondo because I made the same mistake Viking Samurai's making now, but I made it when I was 13 years old, 12 years old. I also only wanted to be as good as Van Damme. I also was only kicking like him. So I was limited because I was kicking like him. Van Damme's kicks are not black belt level kicks. They have high flexibility, they look pretty, but they're not high level kicks. But I didn't learn this until I started really training, you know what I'm saying? And so he's that far behind. I mean, he has a mentality I had when I was 12.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I know what you mean. It's interesting, actually, because he has this emotional investment in believing these movie stars that he looks up to can really fight. So he's always defending Van Damme and the others as if they're real fighters who can't be distinguished from someone with a track record as a fighter. And I think that's what he's trying to now project onto himself, that he has no record. He clearly doesn't have much skill or talent, but somehow he can jump into the ring with someone like Bisping and knock them out, or Nam Fan will knock them out. He might genuinely believe that he can do that. So I think that fight might be like a comedy show. I don't see it going past 10 to 15 seconds.
No,
quite dramatic.
Me neither. Even with Bisping's injury, I see Viking seriously getting hurt if that fight ever happened. But it's never gonna happen, you know. And then his delusional mind of thinking Bisping's actually gonna care about a sword of Frank Dux, who even knows if it's real or not. I mean, we already know it's fake, but we don't even know if it's the real sword of the movie. How are you gonna prove that?
Well, let me ask you this, since we're talking about Bisping. So, Viking Samurai, his rationale for challenging Bisping is because Bisping challenged Frank Dux. But before we go into that, did you tell me you were the one who introduced Viking Samurai to Frank Dux? Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Frank Dux, I've been chatting with him since I had a dojo in Mexico, because he has dojos all over Mexico, and some people in Mexico give him credibility because Mexico is very corrupt. If you have money, you bribe people, they will say you're legit. So he knows that very well, you know, and a lot of Mexicans, let's just say a lot of them, especially the lower class ones, they're not the smartest. So a lot of them still believe the hype of Bloodsport. And there might be fanboys too, like Viking is, and they don't really know any better, you know. So he cashes in on that in Mexico because people there actually buy his BS. But the point is,
interesting. You should let the audience know.
No, I will. I have all the chance to prove it.
You were the one that introduced Viking Samurai.
Can you repeat what you just said? Because I was talking over you.
You should let the audience know that you were the one that introduced Viking Samurai to Frank Dux. I had no idea until you told me that. See, that's one area where he gets a lot of credibility. It was never really explained how he managed to make contact with Frank Dux. And I actually think that led to him getting a lot of other high-profile interviews.
Yeah. It did, and in 2011, I had a dojo in Acapulco, Mexico, and it was the dojo was inside the most expensive private school in the city of Acapulco. So the dojo was inside the school. Most of my students were students from the school, and when I had this dojo under the name of J.K. Lim, J.K. Taekwondo from Grandmaster J.K. Lim, my master in Burbank, California. He came down there to open up the dojo with me, everything, came down there for a belt testing and all that stuff, brought me a bunch of things and made it all legit. And back then, Frank Dux was reaching out to all the instructors that he knew on Facebook in Mexico to try and get us to join a program that he was trying to make where we could spar each other. This is, I already had him as a friend for years before this on Facebook, but he reached out to me for this. And, he also has some contact with some security companies there, or he might be part owner of one. I don't know exactly what the deal is there. But, he has a bit of juice in Mexico, to be honest. Like he has a little bit of influence out there. Huh?
Frank Dux has influence?
Yeah, he has a little bit of influence there in the sense that he's got schools, he's got students that have schools, And he even has some students that I think are in some police forces. Like he does teach some cops and some people that actually give him credibility. But again, I think it all has to do with him handing out money. I don't know this for a fact, but I know how Mexico works. I know there they have a saying, "Con dinero baila el perro." This means with money, even dogs will dance for you.
Yeah. So have you met Frank Dux in person?
No, I've never met him in person. Never. But we've had many conversations, and he was always messaging me, and I always had a plan of trying to expose him more so, or try to challenge his students. I always wanted to challenge one of his best students. That was one of the plans me and Viking Samurai had. The second person we were supposed to challenge was Frank Dux's main person who represents his martial art in Mexico. So my idea was to challenge him to either a kickboxing match or an MMA match. That was our plan. That was why I made that connection with him and Frank Dux. And Frank Dux didn't trust it, man. And it's not that Frank Dux didn't trust me. Frank Dux didn't trust him. Frank Dux thought that Viking Samurai might be in coercion with this guy. What's his name? I forget his name right now. This guy that organizes the Dragon Fest, and I don't know what other martial arts events in America. The biggest martial arts events are organized by him. I can't think of his name right now. I don't know if you can think of his name.
I can't, but maybe you can find it and just cut it into the video.
Yeah. I'll find it and I'll link it to the video for sure. He has Michael J. White come to his events and different kinds of people. So it's in his best interest to defend Michael J. White. So this guy reached out to Viking Samurai, not even to me. He commented on a few of my videos because he didn't like the things I was saying about Michael J. White. Trying to say that Michael J. White had street fights and that I don't know what I'm talking about and blah, 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 blah. And he basically reached out to Viking Samurai and told him that we needed to stop making videos on Michael J. White. That he would arrange for Viking Samurai to talk to him, but Viking Samurai had to sort of promise that we would bury this. Because it looked very bad for Michael J. White, all the videos I was making. And I had to delete a few of them because of YouTube. I used too much content from other channels and things like that, and movies. So I had to delete a lot of videos that I made on him. But basically, Viking Samurai then told me, I'm gonna make this one video with Michael J. White. If you want, you can make one more video on him backing down or him not taking the fight or whatever you want to say. But then after that, we have to bury it if we want to be in movies. I know you want to be in movies. I know I want to be in movies. But if we keep going this way, exposing these guys, then we're not gonna be in a movie. Neither you or me, we're gonna get blacklisted. I'm like, bro, you're tripping, man. You know, I don't know if you saw what I sent you, but Arnold Milchan. It's like, bro, like I know people that are way above these B movies, man. We should make a video on Arnold Milchan, the owner of Regency. I taught him private lessons in Acapulco, but he did not want to do that video. It's almost like he did not want people in the movie industry that he's in now, the B movie martial arts industry, to know what people I know that are like way more hardcore. They're like the top of the pyramid in Hollywood, you know? So it's like, and why was I able to teach Arnold Milchan? Because I'm a nobody? It's because everybody knew me in Acapulco, man. Like I fought the first MMA tournaments there. I fought them. The very first ones that they ever had. Nobody else in the Taekwondo world had the balls to step up and go in that MMA tournament and fight the karate guys and the boxers and everybody else that they were throwing at everyone. It was only me and one of my partners that trained with my master, rest in peace, who was Sergio Laravalle. He was killed by a drug cartel, by the way, and I'm making a video on that now. When it's done, it will be linked up here. But me and his other student, we were the only ones from Taekwondo that went to this MMA tournament. He knocked the guy out in 12 seconds. I TKO'd the guy with a kick to the nose. I broke his nose. And this made me known in Acapulco. The whole city knew me after this. The half of the arena was filled up with police, either police or people in the underworld as well. So everybody knew who the hell I was after that fight. My fight was the bloodiest fight that night. The guy was full of blood. And his fight was the most impressive fight because in his fight, the heavyweight, he knocked him out with 2 kicks. Kick to the rib, kick to the head. The guy was out cold. So, I mean, this is why also Frank Dux reached out to me. You know, he's seen my videos on Facebook. I have so many videos stretching back since 2009 when I started my channel. And if you compare it, like I was saying, Viking Samurai's first pictures, I told you what they were. If you watch my very first pictures on Facebook, I'm in a runway modeling event, professional runway modeling of Revlon professional runway modeling event that I did in Acapulco. I performed martial arts and did a choreographed fight. And I also choreographed the fights of the other people that had fights on stage. So it's like, dude, like I was doing all kinds of stuff back then already, even before I even had a Facebook channel. I mean, a YouTube channel or even Facebook. Because I started Facebook a bit late, 2009. And I only started it because I moved from Mexico to Holland for like 6 months at that time. And I just opened it to be able to keep in touch with people. I didn't even open it up for any other reason other than that at the time. Yeah.
It's really interesting to hear about your background, and I haven't heard this before about your background, and it's certainly not the way Viking Samurai portrayed you. So I think it's something you should let your audience know more about if you want. And do you see yourself getting into any movies going forward? Because you obviously have the look and the talent for it, and you sound like you have some connections as well in the movie world. So are you interested in doing any movies going forward?
Yeah, I am, but you know, I'm gonna go back to Viking Samurai as well because he claims he went to LA to try and be an actor. He claims he was out there for 3 or 4 years. I don't know. I haven't seen any pictures of him being out there and taking lessons and going on auditions, but he claims he did and was never able to land any gigs. And he claims he gave up on trying to be like a martial arts movie star because the level had died out. You know what I mean? I don't know if you remember in the early 2000s, you know, like 2010s, whatever, those times, even a little bit before that, it kind of died out at like a high level, like the Van Damme's, Jackie Chan's, like it wasn't really at that level. It was all these B movies. So he told me that for him, it wasn't worth it to be out there trying to be in these B movies. You know what I'm saying? Which for me was almost in a way also the case. This is part of the reason why I also left the States. I kind of got like disappointed with trying to get into movies because I tried from my teenage years. I started when I was 15, 16. I got my first headshots. And I tried all the way up until I was like in my early 20s. I know, 19, 20. And it may not make sense to you sometimes because I'm talking that I'm in LA, but then I'm also in Mexico. But the reason for this is because my dad was an airline pilot and I had unlimited tickets. So I literally was in both places all the time. I was taking planes back and forth all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So I was working a lot in LA, making money in dollars and then spending it in Mexico in pesos, which your money's worth a lot more like that. So I was living it up, man. At that time, I felt, you know, I turned 18 and I had all these unlimited tickets and I could go wherever I wanted. So I took advantage of that. And that's why I was all over the place. But yeah, I had the intention of making movies. This is how I, when I first started martial arts, I already had that mind frame that I wanted to be in a movie. I wanted to be like Bruce Lee or like Van Damme. I had this mentality since I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. But as I kept getting more into martial arts, and you know, you have to go through the fighting aspect of it. You have to spar, you have to go to tournaments, you have to fight. Over time, I started getting addicted to the adrenaline of the feeling of winning fights. Over time, you know, some people tend to get addicted to it, and you know, because of my MMA fight, I was offered to become a bouncer, and I was looking for a job. I had to get a job because I got into a fight with my dad. He kicked me out of my house, so I had to get like a real job. And this is how I started bouncing. It was shortly after my first MMA fight in Mexico, and I got offered the job because I spoke perfect English and because they saw me fight. They knew I could fight. I had no experience in security. I had no courses, nothing. I was just put there because I could fight and I knew English, and it was spring break. So this is how I basically started bouncing. But I did take the job right away because I always had the curiosity of bouncing. Um, my mother dated a bouncer shortly after she broke up with my dad. So I heard them talking a lot about his stories of getting in fights and this kind of thing. This is not even the reason why though. When I was 19, and Viking Samurai knows about this, he chose to not put it in the videos. I actually did land a movie part in LA when I was there, when I was 19. Actually, two movie parts. I landed two B movies. One was called Raspberry and Lavender. I have the trailers, and the other one is a movie with James Nam or Nam Sok Hoon. I don't know if you know who Nam Sok Hoon is.
No.
He's a star of Secret of Five Fingers or Five Fingers. Oh, Five Fingers of Death. Five Fingers of Death. It's like a 1970s martial arts movies. You know, only people who are really into those 70s martial arts movies know who he is. Like real fanboys know who this guy is. I didn't even know who he was either. But he had an audition in LA, and there was invitations sent to like a lot of Taekwondo studios. We were one of them to go audition for like parts in this movie. So I went with my master, and he took a bunch of people with him, a bunch of other students. So this audition was not even with my acting agency. It was through the martial arts world. So we went down to this dojo in Koreatown, and you know, I did my thing. I did a bunch of kicks, and I remember the adrenaline was so high that I actually performed the kicks better than normal, especially the jump kicks. I really felt like I had jumped higher than normal because of the adrenaline I had. I really wanted this, and I was the only person that was chosen at that moment by the director. But the director was also the star of the movie. But this was like a really a low budget movie. They didn't even have permits to shoot in like Las Vegas. They went to Vegas and shot some footage there, but they made it look like it was a wedding video because they didn't. They you know, cheapskate. He didn't want to pay for the permits. The movie I think only came out in Korea, and there was some kind of viewing of the movie in LA or Hollywood. I don't know because there's some article about it on IMBD. But the point of this is this: when we were shooting the movie, part of the movie was shot in a club. Because the character of the movie, Nam Sok-hoon, the Korean guy, he supposedly owns a club in the movie. To this day, I haven't seen the movie, by the way. I've only seen the trailer. And when we were shooting at this club, there was bouncers there at the club because the club, we were shooting there close before their opening time. And so the bouncers that showed up, you know, there was this Mexican-American bouncer, tall guy with scars on his face, scars on his fists, you know, really tough-looking guy. And he was standing there at the door with another few bouncers. And I remember when I came in that day, the main actor was talking to them, and he told the guys, because it was a Korean club, it was like an exclusive Korean club. So, and Taekwondo's Korean. I don't know if you know, but you know, you're a martial artist, right? So you know Taekwondo's Korean. And so when I came in, the actor was telling the bouncer, "Oh, look, that guy is a second-degree black belt. He's you know, he's won the nationals and this that." And then, you know, the bouncer wasn't impressed. Keep in mind, back then, I was beating up everybody in my dojo except the heavyweight champion that we had, Juan. He was the only one that I probably couldn't take. He was just too big and too experienced. But other than that, everybody else, I was like pretty much the champion in the dojo, you know? So I was 19, but I was used to beating up adults, people way bigger and stronger than me. So I really felt very confident, but this guy really talked all my confidence out of me. Like, he pretty much started laughing. He said he wasn't impressed that I was a black belt. He said, yeah, black belts, we get him in here all the time. First degree black belts, 10th degree black belts, and he went up to saying 100th degree black belts. Then the other two bouncers, they were eating, but they started laughing, you know? And then he's like, we get him here all the time. But when they get into fights, they end up the same. We end up kicking their asses and throwing them out. That shit don't work, man. That shit don't work against people like us, you know. And the thing is like I could feel that he would kick my ass. Like I looked at his eyes, I looked at his hands, and you know, you feel this shit. If you're real with yourself, you feel it. And I got this feeling again, like I'm a bitch or something, you know. And I really didn't like it. And I remember at that moment, I told myself, I don't ever want to be like famous and end up in a position that Van Damme is in, where your bodyguards kick your ass because you can't fight. You've never been in street fights, or you don't have enough experience, or you're not credible that you've been in enough fights, like real fights. I'm not talking about tournaments. I mean real situations like Mr. T. And because he also brought up Mr. T, you know, this bouncer. Most bouncers know Mr. T's background. So it's like, yeah, he brought up how he's the real tough guy, you know. I mean, the same things that I said in Viking Samurai video. It's not like I came up with it on my own, you know. But again, at the time I was 19, and only about a year and a half went by before I got that door work in Mexico. And I took it immediately because at that moment I knew, like, I gotta bounce. Is this something I have to do at least for a few years? Like I told myself, at least for a few years, you know, I can test myself. And you know, whether I get my ass kicked or not, whatever, you know, you learn from it. That's how you learn. I spent 3 years getting my ass kicked at JK Taekwondo by people that were black belts better than me. From my 13th up until my 16th, for 3 years long, I was getting my ass whooped. So if Viking Samurai saying he was beating up black belts at green belt, that is a very delusional story, man. I mean, either he's lying his ass off, A, or B, he trained at a really terrible dojo, which I don't think is the case.
Well, look, it's interesting. I think a big difference between you and someone like Viking Samurai is maybe you started martial arts because you liked the movies, you wanted to be like Van Damme and so on, but clearly you fell in love with the martial arts. That was your passion. You went into it deeply. You tested yourself, even to the point where you were in tournaments, MMA, bouncing, and so on. Whereas someone like him, I think it's just all for show. I look at him as a show pony. You know, it's there, maybe it looks good, but you really can't do much with it. You can't really race it. It doesn't really do anything other than try to look good. So I can tell if someone can fight. And it's interesting watching him try to box because he's even worse than some of the beginners I've seen. He has no talent. And it's quite interesting to see that he's hooked up with Tim Witherspoon, who's apparently a former two-time world champion back from a few decades ago. And they're telling him he's good, he's got power, this and that. Now, clearly he doesn't. Now, if I can see it, someone like Tim Witherspoon, former two-time world champion, can see it. So why are they telling him that he is good? And I look at it, I think they're probably using him because he has a reasonably big YouTube channel. It's brought some publicity to Tim Witherspoon. I wouldn't be talking about him otherwise. And so it's almost like they'll get him, they'll train him, they'll feed him to the wolves, so to speak.
Yeah.
They don't really care what happens to him. They'll put him in the ring against that Brian guy, give him a black eye, put him in sparring. He doesn't know what he's doing. He tears his biceps. So I don't know if you've seen this recently. He's torn his left bicep. He's had to have surgery in order to reattach the bicep. It's just one disaster after the next. He's being fed the wrong information, and I think because he's such a narcissist, he wants to believe it. He's one of these people. He wants to be surrounded by ass lickers, as they say. And
yeah.
I think it's only going to lead to a bad outcome for him, from what I can tell.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And also, he also has a back injury that he told me about. So this is one of the reasons why you may not see him kicking fast often. Most of the time, he's doing slow movements and preaching how if you can kick slow, you can kick fast. But that's because he has a back problem, lower back problem. And yeah, now he tore his bicep. I suspect he's also on steroids. I highly suspect he's on steroids. So I think that also has something to do with it. See, if you've never done fast movements and you're like 44, 45, or 50, I don't even know how old he is, then it's like if you all of a sudden now start adding fast movements and you're always lifting heavy and you're taking steroids, that's an accident waiting to happen. I talked to a friend of mine, my best friend from since kindergarten. I told you he's a doctor. I talked to him about Viking Samurai, and this is basically what he told me. He looked into the video of him kicking with that thing on his arm, and he said some people are stupid and they're never gonna get better, and it's never gonna go away. He says, in the Spanish, la gente es pendeja y nunca se les va a quitar. And it's like, I had an interesting talk with him, and we talked about steroids. Most of it is in Spanish, but I'll probably add a little bit of that in this video as well.
Okay, but sorry, what did you mean? What won't go away? His bicep injury, he won't get
No, he meant to say that he's stupid and it's never gonna change.
Oh yeah, well I think that's pretty clear.
That's pretty much what he said. And this guy is the smartest guy I know.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone smarter than him, man. Anytime I want advice on any topic, I call him.
See, that's interesting what you're saying about his back injury, because that's not something I was aware of. I don't remember him talking about that on his channel. But
no, he's never going to talk about it. He's not going to say it, of course.
It might also explain why he's insisting on doing boxing, not kickboxing, even though he's supposedly an expert in kicking. Maybe he can't actually do the kicks in a way that would be effective in a fight if he has that back injury. So he thinks he can box. But the problem is, I've seen his boxing. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, it's beyond amateurish.
It's beyond bad. And what's funny is he always tries to say that I can't punch. and then you see that. I mean, I'm not a boxer. I'm not a boxer, but at least I understand the concept of a jab, keeping distance, and not getting hit.
I mean, I think if the two of you boxed, it would be a round 1 KO.
Yeah, it would. It would, yeah. It wouldn't even matter how I box him, dude. I could box him with one hand. And, dude, if I had two of them, like if he had a clone or a twin brother that could, at the exact same skill level, and you throw both of them at me, it would be the same outcome, man. Even if you threw 2 Viking Samurais at me, it would not end well for him. And not just against me, against any martial artist that's any good. Even mid-level good would eat him for breakfast. I'm gonna challenge him next year to do not to fight. I'm going to challenge him to do the first black belt form of Taekwondo. It's called choreo. I'm gonna make a video out and I'm gonna say I challenge Viking Samurai to do the choreo form within 24 hours. So it's not gonna give him enough time to train it and practice it without cheating.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't know this form, means he's not a black belt. Yeah. I'm gonna be like, hey, you're a black belt, bro. Prove it. Do the black belt form, the first black belt form, the one you see in Best of the Best. You see this form in Best of the Best. In the very beginning of Best of the Best, they're doing this form. The kata that they do in the beginning when all the Koreans are lined up, that's choreo.
Yeah. Okay.
So if he's a black belt, I challenge him. To do this form live, without anybody else or without any screens. He needs to show that there's no screens around him, so he's not copying it, and just do the form live on Facebook or YouTube, whatever.
Yeah.
I know he won't do it. He will come up with some excuse probably.
He'll come up with some smart-ass comment, but I think it's a worthy challenge.
Yeah.
It's quite clever, actually. Yeah, definitely. I was just going to say, so that thing about him possibly being on steroids, look, obviously I don't know, but I suspect he is as well, and he's not going to admit it because it would be a huge blow to his ego and his public image. His public image is his natural for life, but I mean, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
People who are on steroids, it does weaken their tendons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, someone who's not on it can have an injury, but I suspect that might be something that's going on with him as well.
Yeah, for sure. You can also tell by the gyno he has in his chest. He has extreme gyno.
I did notice some gynecomastia. I think that's the term.
Yeah.
Some succulent titties.
Yeah. But here's another thing. Before I forget about Frank Dux, when I was convincing Frank Dux to be on Viking's channel, dude, that took me hours, bro. It took me days, hours and days. If I go back and look at the chat, I can tell you exactly how many hours and days of chatting with him, trying to convince him, because he was very suspicious that he was in coercion with this guy that I told you about that organizes these events, and he's hooked up with all these movie stars that he's not working with. But what I was getting at is Frank Dux, when he finally agreed to be on, you know what he told me? That he would only be on if I was on too. So he wanted all 3 of us to be in the first video. So somehow there, Viking Samurai convinced him to not have me on. Because they did that video without me. I was waiting for Viking to tell me, hey, you know, we're gonna do the video with Dukes this day, and all of a sudden the video is out, and I'm like, okay, when did this happen? No one told me, you know.
He sounds like a real backstabber.
Oh, he's a real backstabber, man. And then when I found out he had done the video, I sent Frank Dukes a message and I asked him, you know, how did it go? And he said, oh, very well. He was a very professional, this, that, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, then I already knew where this was gonna go, you know? I already knew that he was gonna backstab me more. And so I was properly prepared for this. But another thing that Viking Samurai did, and I'm mentioning this because I have the proof of this. I have the video that he sent me. Viking Samurai sent me a video because we were both laughing at Frank Dukes. After his first podcast with him, we were both chatting and laughing at him. So I have the chats again. I have all the proof. Then he sent me a part that he edited out. You know why he edited it out? He said
what was it?
He said that he edited that out because people wouldn't take him seriously. So what does that tell you right there? From the beginning, his intention was to have people take what Frank Dukes was saying seriously. I was hoping he wouldn't try to milk him like a cow like he's been doing up until this point. But I was already suspecting that that's where this was going to go. You know what I mean? So he sends me this video where Frank Dukes is saying that they had some guy, I don't know his name, the name is in the video, that they had some guy in these tournaments throw the losers off the roof, like 4 or 5 stories or something. I don't know how many stories, 3, 4 stories, that he would throw the losers off the roof because of the betting that was involved. So Viking Samurai is like trying to not laugh, dude. He's like, I could see that he's holding it in, you know? And then he's like, so they would like die, right? And Frank Dukes is like, no. These guys knew how to throw people off roofs, I tell you. You wouldn't land on your head. You would like, and then the video stops when he says, and they would like, but I have I have that video because he sent it to me.
Wow.
So, I mean, and the thing is, Viking Samurai knows how bad I can expose him. And it almost seems to me that he's getting as much content out as he can before I do expose him. Because I've said in the comments many times that I'm waiting for the right time. Because it's been almost 2 years since he made those videos on me. But the thing is this, man, like, I knew his mask would fall off. He was trying to play the humble guy for a while after he made those videos on me. Maybe 6 months to a year before he went back to straight up delusional. You know? So I knew that would happen eventually. I knew that he would just basically expose himself. So instead of making videos on him right away, the most important thing for me when I made that Van Damme split Stupidity video was for people to get the point that me and him are not together, that I don't think like him, and that we're not the same. Because after 4 or 5 Frank Dukes videos, I have my own subscribers and even people I don't know asking me what I think of Frank Dukes, asking me if he's credible, asking me if I agree with what Viking Samurai is saying, you know, asking me for all these opinions. And I even had some people talking the same shit to me that they were talking to him, saying things like, oh, your kicks are only movie kicks, or you're just as delusional as your boy Viking Samurai, like putting us together like we're the same thing. So I really had to break this thing, this people viewing us as one and the same. And I knew Viking Samurai would make fucked up videos on me after that. But I mean, that's a risk I'm willing to take. What the hell? I mean, I know who I am and what I've done, and I have all the proof in the world to show it. He doesn't. He doesn't have any proof of the things he claims.
Yeah.
So I have nothing to be worried about. I got nothing to hide.
One thing he used against you was he was criticizing you for saying you would beat MJW with a single kick. So what would you say to that? Is that something you believe, or is it something that you just said to rile him up and get him to?
Bro, no, look, it's something that I know. It's not even a belief. It's something that I know. Like, I have a lot of experience, man. Like, I have knocked out guys here that are heavyweights, man. Guys that are bigger than Michael J. White and more experienced than Michael J. White. I don't just say this out of nowhere. Michael J. White has never been in a full contact fight. There's not even one full contact sparring match of him on the internet. Nothing. Everything you see on him, like if you go back and watch my videos, I've made some videos on him. You should type Michael J. White and type my name afterwards. You will find the videos I made on him where I make all these points. That he's just a point karate fighter. And he competed when he was like a teenager or in his early 20s maybe. And there's nothing impressive about the fights that he did have. And if you watch the sparring he has, like the training he has with like let's say some of the Dutch kickboxers here, it's like they're only hugging, doing stupid things. They're not really sparring. And you know, Michael J. White
I've
has
seen some of his sparring. It's very soft, not soft and non-serious. I'll describe it as. I've never seen him doing hard sparring at all.
no. And another thing about Michael J. White is he only has one good leg, man. He can only kick with right. His kicking with left sucks. Like there's a video of him doing spin kicks with right, and you see him doing spin kicks with left. It's like his spinning kick with the left is at his own chest level. I made a video on this too, talking about the fact that he really lacks flexibility. Everybody he kicks in his movies, if you watch his movies, they're all shorter than him. He's always kicking people that are shorter than him. You never see him kicking a person that's taller. Why is everybody in his movies always smaller? He's like the only action star, I think, other than maybe The Rock. But out of the martial arts stars, he's like one of the only ones that's always fighting shorter people. It's because if he fights someone taller, he cannot get his leg up there.
And doesn't he have a ready-made excuse for that? He says that he won't use taller people because they won't be faster than him, which is not true, or they won't be fast enough for the movie, or they won't look good. But I mean, clearly that's nonsense.
It's nonsense. He thinks he's fast.
There are fighters who are just as big, if not bigger than him,
Yeah.
who are fluid. But I think that's the excuse that he gives.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
The thing about Michael J. White is he thinks he's fast. He says I'm fast for a big guy. It's like A, you're not that big, and B, you're either fast or you're not. He's not fast.
Yeah.
You know, like if you compare him to like any elite boxer or any elite kicker, he's slow.
Yeah.
He's slow, you know. So I mean, and fighting is all about speed. He just has too much bulk, too much muscle, and again, the steroids. He does too much steroids, you know, and this holds you back. Like for example, when I train, bro, I never do more weight with my upper body than I do with my legs. I never train my upper body more than my legs in any week. If I have 7 days in the week, I may train 4 days legs, maybe 1 or 2 days upper body. And I'll go light, I won't go heavy. I'll go extreme those 2 days, but I train my legs all the time. If you're a kicker, you have to do this. Because if your upper body starts to weigh more than your legs, you start to be unbalanced, and then you can't do things like, for example, what I do, the 180 leg hold, kicking with one leg and walking forward, having extreme balance. You need to have strong legs. Your legs need to be significantly stronger than your upper body.
Yeah.
So, and this is the problem with the Viking Samurai and even Michael J. White. They're the other way around. Their upper body is way stronger than their legs. This is why they get problems like back problems, injuries, you name it. They're trying to be big and at the same time do fast movements. Sooner or later, there's an accident waiting to happen. And I'm sure Michael J. White has also suffered this kind of injuries. He probably just doesn't talk about it.
Yeah. I want to ask you something. You can cut it out of the video if it's not relevant. But since you're talking about training legs and you know what you're talking about, an injured meniscus, what would you recommend for someone that has a bad meniscus? So maybe torn, maybe displaced, but they obviously want to keep their legs as optimal as possible.
Well, most doctors will tell you to have surgery, but in my opinion, it's always better to train the muscles around the knee. Diet, fasting, keeping the inflammation down as much as you can, and trying to find maybe a doctor that agrees with not having a surgery, which this will be harder said than done, you know. But I've avoided a few surgeries myself because my best friend Hugo told me, you know what, if you're planning on doing what you're doing with the sport, you're better off healing this way or doing this or finding alternative ways of healing yourself, because after a surgery, nothing is the same anymore. You know, I've had 2 surgeries. I have a metal plate. I have a metal plate in my metacarpal. I had a boxer's fracture in my left hand. So I have a metal plate there with 5 screws permanently in there. So, you know, I know how it feels when you have something in your body that's not yours. I have 2 fake teeth. Two front teeth of mine are not real teeth. And I also had a tendon, I had a stab injury in my left hand. The same hand where I have, the same arm where I have the plate, I also have a stab wound. And in that stab wound, I broke my tendons and my nerves. So I had surgery there as well. So I cannot move my left hand like I can move my right. It's like limited. And I have, I can't feel part of my fingers on my left. This is like permanent damage that I have. So I know what it feels like to have things in my body that are not mine. And I would not, like if I had a knee injury or an extreme shoulder injury or whatever, I would opt for not having surgery and just trying to find other ways of healing it. Or getting better.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Excellent. Wow. Well, I think we've covered some really good ground.
Yeah.
I think it'll make a good video if you want to post it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think if there's anything we missed, man.
Let me think. Well, do you think he's serious? If any of these, fighters accepted his challenge, do you think he'd actually go through with it?
I think at the end he will find some kind of excuse to not go through with it, or he's trying to get a fixed fight. That's what I've been suspecting for a while now, that he's trying to get a fight that's sort of fixed to make him look good, so that he has a guarantee that he doesn't lose. You know why? Because he's just too relaxed when he's talking about these fights, man. Who talks like that when they're trying to get a fight if you're actually thinking of really fighting? You don't. Your adrenaline goes up at least a little bit. You can at least see that you're serious. I just don't see him being serious. I don't see the seriousness in his eyes. He seems like a fanboy kid that's just playing. He's like walking up and down the street playing. And I don't think anybody's playing but him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, it's either that or he's massively delusional. But either way, it isn't what you would expect from someone who's serious about fighting that caliber of opponent. What about Jimmy Justice, that one? So I don't really see that fight happening either.
I actually chatted with him. I sent him a few messages.
Oh, you chatted with
him? Yeah, I chatted with him. And he told me...
Tell us a bit about that. That's something people are interested in.
Yeah, for sure. He told me that, and I don't know what he bases this on, because I don't know how to look this up, but he told me that he would have a sparring match with him only if Viking wanted to, that he's not any more interested in fighting him because he found out that his views and his subscribers on YouTube are fake.
Really?
So, I mean, then I looked into it a little bit, not on Viking, but I didn't even know you could get fake views or fake subscribers. But then I looked up videos on this topic, and then I found out that you actually can buy views and subscribers. There's most of these apps or sites will rip you off, but apparently there's a few that actually do work. So if you pay $40, $50, you can get, I don't know how many views and how many subscribers. I don't know the numbers anymore. I'd be lying if I told you an exact number because I don't remember. But Jimmy Justice claims Viking Samurai's views are fake, and therefore he has no interest in fighting him anymore.
That's a huge revelation.
Yeah.
That's definitely something you should get out there. I haven't heard that before. Do you know how Jimmy knows that?
I don't know.
How would he find out?
I don't know. I didn't go into detail about asking him, but he did mention to me that the last thing he told me was that he was going to be in New York and that he's down to spar him. That's the last thing that he told me.
So he'll spar him, but not actually fight him.
Yeah. And that's what I've been saying. Let him spar first. He hasn't even sparred yet, and he's trying to get a professional fight. It's like, how delusional is he? And look, this is another thing I wanted to mention, because a lot of people may not know how this works. Like kickboxing, the highest level of kickboxing is here in Holland. Most people know this, unless they're still delusional and think that Muay Thai is the highest level of kickboxing. But here in Holland, Glory, we have the most amount of heavyweight fighters in kickboxing. And he's talking about doing, I think, a kickboxing match, right, with Jimmy Justice for some kind of belt, right, or some kind of title.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I didn't hear the details on this, but it's like, and this is why it's so delusional, right? If you're here in Holland and you start a fight career in kickboxing, first you have to fight in the N class, they call it here. N means new. This means you're a newling. This means you're a beginner, right? First you have to fight and win like 4 fights before you can move up to C class. Once you're in C class, you have to win like 3 or 4 of those. Then you have to win like another 3 in B. And then after you win 3 in the B class, then you finally can move up to A class. And A class is the professional class where Badr Hari is in, Rico Verhoeven, all the big names in the kickboxing world, they're all A class. But this means that they fought at least 20, 25 times before they got there. This takes a few years. Then you can fight a professional fight for a fucking title. What the hell makes him think he can fight for a title and that it will somehow be legit, or that the world would even consider him a champion? It's like, dude, no, man. Even if you did beat Jimmy Justice with a lucky shot, which he won't, he'll get eaten for breakfast. It's like, it's not going to be recognized as you're a legit fighter now because you didn't go through the process of becoming an A-class fighter.
Well, look,
And this is the thing. Sorry to cut you off.
Anyone who knows anything about fighting knows this is exactly right. You need to earn your way up. Obviously, you need to earn your way to that title shot. So to me, it just comes across as arrogance, delusion. Viking Samurai has talked about Jake Paul as a kind of a role model or an example. So I think he's seen someone like Jake Paul and what he's done, and he thinks he can do it. But the thing is, Jake Paul, whatever you think about him, he has worked hard. I hear he goes into real training camps and trains with legitimate trainers and so on. And you know, he's built himself up. But he hasn't fought for a title. No one's calling him a champion. He's just made a lot of money because of his name. I think part of what he's doing as well is he wants to replicate Jake Paul. He thinks he can just jump in there as a prominent YouTuber and make a heap of money and make out like a bandit. I think that's part of what's going on as well. And he probably thinks people don't know any better.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, he probably thinks people don't know any better. And yeah, he's definitely in it for the money. It's all about the money. And it's the same thing with most YouTubers, you know? They're all in it for the money. Every title they make, every thumbnail they make, it's all to get more views. You know, it's like they're addicted to getting the views and getting the praise and getting the comments and being politically correct so that they don't get, canceled or demonetized or whatever.
But there's something interesting as well. So I'm thinking, all right, so Jimmy Justice is saying Viking Samurai's views, or a lot of his subscribers and views are fake. They're bought. Okay. And then we suspect he might be on steroids, so that's a form of fakery. Then he's lying about his martial arts background. He doesn't seem to have a black belt or even a green belt. He's assuming aspects of your backstory and making them part of his own, we think. And there's all of this other fakery.
Frank Dukes, you forgot Frank Dukes.
He seems very fake.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm seeing is a very hollow person, and you see that in narcissists. So it's very interesting. But I think you've got a lot of exposés here, especially the possibility that he has fake viewers, fake subscribers. I have heard people can purchase fake subscribers, but I've never heard of it for YouTube. But I suppose it's possible.
Yeah, it is. You can pay for this stuff. I seen a video of a YouTuber.
How we took off.
I seen a video of a YouTuber that started a channel like this. His first video it didn't even have a title, nor a thumbnail, nor hashtags, nor a description. He just paid the site for the views, and the video got blown up.
Wow.
So it is possible, but if YouTube finds out or catches you, you're gonna get canceled, demonetized, or you're gonna get a strike.
Yeah. Do you know, what does he do for work? I think he said he's in the finance industry.
Yeah, he's a 9-to-5 office guy. He's a regular Joe Schmo. That's what I've said many times in the comments too to people that ask me about him. He's a regular Joe Schmo with a 9-to-5 job who's been playing it safe all this time. He gave up on doing movies. He gave up on doing martial arts because he didn't see himself getting famous doing movies and being able to do sort of what he's doing now. Even though that mentality has died out. The mentality of people being so stupid that they believe what they see in movies. You will only see really older guys from our generation that might still think like this. The young people nowadays are not as dumb. Most don't even know who Van Damme is. When I mention to young guys, you know who Van Damme is? Most don't even know who he is until they see a picture of Bloodsport. And they're like, oh yeah, the guy from that old movie. Yeah. You know, and like it's died out a bit, you know, and to have the mentality that you're going to be the guy to bring it back, it's like, come on, dude, please. Before I forget, this is what I wanted to mention to you. Viking Samurai, actually, before this last Kumite thing, I told you, right, there was some people that reached out to him for me to make a movie with them. Then he somehow talked to them, twisted it around so that now he's starring in this movie. And apparently this guy is some guy named, I forgot his name. He's the guy that's supposedly trying to bring canon back. So Viking Samurai, I had many messages with him. He was trying to get investors for this movie that he wrote. He wrote this movie of like a karate tournament. I'm assuming similar to the last Kumite. But Viking Samurai apparently wrote it. And I was trying to help him. You know, I was going to get people to invest in this movie. And then you know, the motivation of me wanting to be in this movie went away when I found out Viking Samurai was trying to throw a small part at me. So basically, Viking Samurai is the hero of this movie, and you know, kind of like a Bloodsport movie, if you will, whatnot. They were trying to make me into the Taekwondo character, so my Taekwondo character will be something similar to what you saw in Best of the Best. So my character will be the character doing the crazy kicks. Now, if Viking Samurai is a Taekwondo black belt, why is he throwing the Taekwondo black belt character at me and making himself a karate character like Van Damme? It's like, that makes no sense, right? And then I thought it through, you know, and it's like, there's no way I'm going to do that, because you asked me earlier if I would do movies. I would, but I have strict rules for doing movies. I would never, ever do a movie, and I don't care if people say I have a big ego or that I'm full of myself, but I haven't lost a street fight in 18 years, 17, 18 years. The last time I lost a street fight, I was like 24 years old, 23 years old maybe, so more or less around there. It's like, I haven't lost a street fight in that long. I'm not about to lose a fight in a movie against someone who probably can't fight for real, just to be in a movie, just so I can get my ass kicked in a movie. I didn't put myself through all this shit in the street and in bars and in Mexico and dealing with cartel members and all this crap so some actor can beat me up in a movie. Like, I'm not gonna do that to myself. Sorry, but no. If you see Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee, people till this day make memes that Bruce Lee can kick Chuck Norris's ass, which, you know, I respect Bruce Lee and I do believe he could fight, but not to the point that he could beat Chuck Norris. Like, in my opinion, if he fought Chuck Norris would eat him for breakfast. In like a full contact karate match like the ones Chuck Norris used to win. I'm not talking a street fight, I'm talking a tournament, you know? So it's like, I lost the point of what I was trying to say. What was I trying to say?
No, I mean, that's an interesting point. People get taken in by movies, so if they see you getting your ass kicked in a movie, it's like it really happened.
Yeah, exactly.
That in real life,
exactly.
Your ass kicked.
So that's what I was getting at. It's like, I'm not gonna get my investors here who could invest for other things. They actually want to invest to make a school for me, a martial arts school here. I'm not gonna get them to invest money in a movie where I'm getting a small part where I lose. It's like, are you fucking out of your mind? I'm gonna get my people to invest in a movie that I'm gonna lose a fight in. And you know, it's like, I would win one fight and then lose one fight. That was his plan. And you know, I'm assuming he was not able to gather up the money. But this is what's interesting. Look at how karma works. What happened to him now? He ended up getting the role where he gets his ass whooped in a movie, the small role. The small role he was trying to throw at me, that's what he ended up doing now. See how karma works? Karma always comes back to get you sooner or later. You know, I was the one that was supposed to star in this thing he was trying to set up. And the thing is, if he had actually put me to star in it, I would have got more investors to put money in it, or at least that we had a similar role, like a brother role, we're twin brothers or something. You should have came up with something where I have a bigger role. If you would have done that, I would have got the investors, and maybe this thing would have happened. But instead, he started milking Frank Dukes dry, and I don't know this for a fact, but I assume that the investors stepped back because they thought this guy's delusional. Yeah. I'm not sure, but that's just what I assume, you know? I mean, it is their money.
Well, I mean, that's really interesting. So, speaking of people who might seem as delusional now, what about Don Wilson? So, he interviewed Don Wilson. He supposedly went out and trained with Don Wilson out where he lives, I think. And I haven't seen him back on his channel. Do you know anything about that? What happened with them and how Don Wilson might perceive him now?
So what do you mean they trained together? I don't get your question exactly.
So you know Don Wilson, the dragon?
Yeah, I know. Of course I know him.
Yeah, of course. So I don't know if you saw it. There was a video where Viking Samurai said he went out and trained with Don Wilson. So I don't know if it was at his house or out in California or wherever he lives, but he said they trained together. So there's some footage of them together training. So that implied some sort of personal relationship or something like that. And I'm just wondering, I haven't seen him back on his channel, and has his opinion of him changed since he's become delusional, saying he can beat professional fighters and so on?
Has whose opinion changed, you think? Don the Dragon's opinion on Viking, you mean?
Yeah, Don Wilson.
Yeah. I think it probably has changed. I was actually thinking the same thing. I haven't seen him on his channel. It's also because I think Don the Dragon got annoyed at Viking Samurai always giving Van Damme so much credibility and giving him practically almost zero.
Yeah.
That is what I heard from another subscriber that in the comments he told me this, that he noticed that, I think it was the last thing that he was on with him, that he noticed that he was frustrated that he could not get his point across with Viking because he defends Van Damme so blindly, you know. And I think Don the Dragon, he just wants, in my opinion, he just wants the credibility that he deserves, man. Because like, you know, he, at the end of the day, he is a real fighter, he is a real movie star, and at the end of the day, maybe he deserved the career a bit more than Van Damme. But at the end of the day, Van Damme is just better looking, and he's just better at selling himself. He's just better at fighting on camera.
Yeah.
He just understands that aspect better.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I can see how that might have happened because, as we know, Viking Samurai is a fanboy.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't know better, I would say he's almost in love with Van Damme and his muscles from Brussels. You never know.
Exactly.
You never know. So, but we do know that Don Wilson's a real fighter. He's a former world champion.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't think it's any contest. Although Viking Samurai was always making out like Van Damme could beat people like Don Wilson. But no, I don't believe that for a second. It is. It's an insult to someone who's actually fought for real. You know, so you can see it in how Viking Samurai perceives himself. He thinks he can just come in out of nowhere and beat professional fighters or former professional fighters. Like all that training and all that combat experience means nothing. But clearly it means everything.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, he actually was wanting to like challenge some other UFC fighter. I forget his name. He made a video on Bruce Lee kicking his ass, and then he told me in a messenger like, "Oh, I'm trying to get a fight with this guy. This guy is taller than Viking Samurai, younger, and has a fight record." I told him, "Bro, you're delusional. This is the first time he ever told me that he wanted to fight a UFC fighter." I was like, "Bro, like, have you even ever sparred? Have you ever even fought?" Like, I straight up told him, "Bro, like, spar first, you know, this, that." And then this was the moment that he told me for the first time that he's a Taekwondo black belt. And all of a sudden he's a black belt. I'm like, "Oh, okay, you're a black belt now. Wow." Okay, after I told you can't fight, all of a sudden now you're a black belt. You know? And this is the thing also about him. One of the things that he got angry at me at, which I know this for a fact, is that he kept sending me messages telling me every time someone that was trolling him on his channel, telling him he can't kick or he can't fight, he kept telling me like, "Oh, look, this guy said this guy said that." He wanted me to go there and give him credibility, like saying, "Yeah, Viking could maybe beat someone up with his kicks." And I never did that because I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give someone credibility when they don't deserve it. You know, it's a disrespect to every person like myself who's busted their ass to get to the level that they're at, and he wants to just give it to him. It's like, I don't understand this generation of people just wanting everything given to them. Nobody wants to enjoy the experience and the journey of getting somewhere.
Yeah.
You know?
So does the trolling really bother him?
They really bother him. It really bothers him, bro.
Yeah, it gets under his skin.
Yeah, he even makes videos on him. He keeps making videos where he responds to this stuff, you know? It's because it gets under his nerves.
He made one recently about how some people are garbage, but most people are good. And I assume he considers himself to be one of the good guys.
Right, or he thinks that people actually believe that he is one of the good guys.
Yeah. I think he might have a few delusional fans, but now I'm wondering, are they real fans or are they fake accounts?
Exactly. And then there's this other dude named Red Chucks. Have you ever heard of Red Chucks?
No.
Okay, I'm not surprised. If I'll send you a video on him because there's only like 2 videos left on him and they were on another channel. I think this guy got his channel deleted because he was glorifying violence too often. He kept talking about having knives in his car and just stabbing people if he got into a fight, and it kept saying crazy stuff. You will see some of that crazy stuff maybe in